Welcome to Sunday Night on Assassin 99.5 in Accra, 98.5 in Kumasi, 99.7 in Tamale, 100.3 in Cape Coast, across affiliates in Ghana, and streaming globally on Facebook, with cuts later coming to you on YouTube. And I can't tell you how pleased I am to be talking to the guests that we have for our show Sunday Night tonight. They're called Where Else To. Now, you might think, what exactly does that mean? Well, with everybody talking about tourism as the bright new future of African economies, an industry that in 2019, pre-COVID, earned across the African continent nearly 170 billion US dollars for African countries. Tourism and travel for a lot of African countries are the name of the game, and everybody thinking about how they can expand their industries. But what about if, for you, travel across Africa is not about tourism? It's about something else. It's about the sheer love of the continent and wanting to see what you find on the road. Well, I'm talking to a couple today who would know everything about that, and they go under the moniker Where Else To. So welcome to Sunday Night with Bettina and Houssain. Where Else To? Bettina and Houssain, this is just wonderful. We've managed to get you when you arrived in Ghana and you had just a tiny window of time before you're on to your next destination, because you are the ultimate traveling couple.
Well, yeah, probably, yeah. Yeah.
Can I ask you, who has more of the wanderlust, you, Bettina, or you, Houssain?
No, we have actually both of us, actually,
It's a big foundation of
our relationship. Yeah.
It's because it's quite difficult if someone is like someone who is bitten by the wonder bug, or if it's like someone who just tagging along. Because you really have to have the passion for this. Because we're not on holiday. We're on an adventure with a lot of challenges, and you have to have a passion for that. So it's very important that we both share this passion, hobby. That's it.
And I believe, as she said, it's one of the very foundations of our relationship, because we both like and love going outside and just discovering places and meeting people. And we like to do it in the way we're doing it, not to do the tourism, the traditional tourism, by being in this local touristic destinations, but really actually going to the far places and being there with the people and being there with the cultures and just embracing the landscape surrounding us there, really far from everyone. That's actually what motivates both of us to be actually doing what we are doing.
Yeah.
But this is an extraordinary story, one even more extraordinary than the constantly extraordinary stories you come across moving across Africa, because you have set aside 2 years of your life to travel where in Africa?
Well, actually, it's a big question because 2 years is an open door.
Yes.
So we have set a goal of making 2 years expedition through the whole continent. We can't, unfortunately, make every single country.
We would love to.
Yeah.
But it's not always possible, unfortunately.
But we would like, in our plan, there is over 25 countries across the continent, from north to south, again up to north. And so it's a big challenge. We have 2 years, but maybe it can be 3 years. Maybe we're gonna fall in love with the country in the road, and maybe we stay longer. And you never know.
You never know. You
Yeah.
just go with the flow.
Yeah. But the main goal is to be 2 years and more. That's the main thing.
But this is extraordinary. So just to set it in context for our viewers and listeners. So Bettina, you're from Germany. You were born originally in Germany. What
Exactly.
part of Germany do you come from?
I'm coming from the Frankfurt region. And I was born there. I was raised there. And I started traveling in Africa in 2018. And that was where the passion bit me. And it's like there is a saying, if you once go to Africa, you always have to come back, That's like the European, they say it. And it's really like this, because it's just so amazing. And I think it's also because you really have a different view of Africa from the media and what you are taught in school and all of this. So when you come here, it's like, wow, it's very different, you know, because it's like, it's always said, it's like one thing. Africa is one thing, you know. And when you come here, you see like, wow, it's like Kenya, it's Ghana, it's Tanzania. It's like so many different countries, and everyone has so many different like cultures and tribes and religions, and like even in one country, so many different languages. So it's like you learn so much, and sometimes I think like people go to space, but you don't even have to go to space because the world is so rich with beautiful things.
But in 2008, so you've been traveling to Africa for 15 years. What brought you here? Was it a backpacking student experience? Was it you came on an organized tour? How did you come?
No, so it was like I studied and worked, and because I worked for 40 hours and I studied on the weekend. So after my studies, I felt like I need a break. I just wanted to have a little bit of off time.
What did you study?
I studied banking and finance, actually.
Gosh.
So I'm coming from the financial sector. You didn't expect this?
No, I definitely did not expect.
Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of people, they don't think this. Like some they say, like, I thought you're a teacher. Yeah.
Well, thought maybe anthropology. That's very often what brings people to Africa, isn't it?
Okay.
But banking and finance. So people would
yeah.
have thought, well, what you do then, you get yourself a job as an executive in a nice bank in Frankfurt, you know, center of European banking.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
decide to hit the road. And where did you go to?
So yeah, basically what happened after the studies and stuff, I just wanted to have a gap. And I agreed with my former company that I can like take 2-3 months of time and then I will come back. So I did 2 months in Tanzania. And I didn't want to just travel there. I didn't want to just be like a tourist. I wanted to do something and I wanted to be in contact with the people. So I found a place where I could volunteer. So I volunteered actually as a teacher in a school. And I really loved it. I made a connection with some painters and I'm still working with them together. So
Where was this in Tanzania?
in Arusha. So I was...
And you were teaching what?
Yeah, it was like a primary school. They have also secondary, but I stayed mostly with the primary because I like the small ones.
They're nicer small kids.
And
cute one.
yeah, they're easier also.
Yeah.
And I met the artists, so I started working together with them. I talked to them what are the issues and stuff, and because they're artists, so they didn't have like this deep understanding of finance. So I told them like, yeah, look, you have to make a book, you have to calculate how you sell your painting and all of these things. And there was like a deep friendship also which involved, and we till nowadays like still in contact. And through this, it really like, I was amazed of Tanzania. I was amazed of the country. And I met other travelers in this time. And they told me about the journey. And I was very scared in this time. I never have been alone to another country and like doing these things. But I met them and I saw it's possible. And they told me like even girls like traveling alone and stuff. And I thought like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. So I had to go back to Germany because I promised my former boss. And then after a year, I said, okay, I quit my job. I will take the backpack and go. So yeah, I traveled in Africa a little bit. And then I came to Morocco. And there we met.
And that's where the story starts of where else to.
Exactly.
Actually, yeah.
But you had done mainly Eastern and Southern Africa, is
Yes.
that right, in your early travels? So you went to Tanzania, and then maybe some other countries we'll hear a little bit about. But Houssain, I'd love to hear your story of the travel bug. So you're Moroccan born,
Yes,
but you haven't lived your whole life in Morocco.
I have lived actually my whole life in Morocco.
Are you serious?
Yes, my entire life actually. I mean some small parts in my past life when I used to do some diplomatic life, but mainly my whole life was in Morocco, and my career was a different thing. I mean, my studies were so different before my career, and it's a big mix, you know. I have done so many things through the.
Tell us a little bit about it. What did you study, and then what did you go on to work?
So actually, I studied linguistics. So I studied English mainly, and how to teach languages in general. But at the main time, I was doing a lot of diplomatic affairs. So I was chosen to represent Morocco in the UK for 6 months, and in London to represent the young Moroccans to talk about the issues in the MENA region. And that was one of the biggest part that changed my life, because I was in this world that is filled with ties and, you know, MPs and talking big and all these things. And I saw that life actually can be a little bit simpler than that. So I did quit that life right away after this diplomacy this experience. And
you
I
weren't
went.
seduced by London at all?
No. Oh, actually, I came back to London as an artist after a few years. So it was a big thing for me, because personally, I loved the city. I loved being in the UK. But I have always this big connection with Africa, because it's my home country. It's my hometown. That's how I call it. So I started making a lot of research in Morocco, and I thought, well, this is a rich country. You know, this is a rich culture here. Why don't we use it and expose it more to the other, you know, to others there, because they really think low and they really think less of us. But we are really strong. We really have a lot of heritage. We have a lot of knowledge and experiences that we can share, and they can also learn from us. It's not only one way, it's both ways. And that's how I started another project called Confluence. I don't know if you heard about it,
No,
but it was a link between Morocco and Scotland, and trying to look into the connections between cultures. And it was a photography project, and it involved a lot of storytellers from both countries. And we did a big thing, and that's how I met Bettina, because she came to Morocco, and we were hosting a big festival to connect three cultures: the Moroccan, Nordic, and the Scottish. So we had a big festival, and she came to one of the events, and we met, and yeah, it was the injection then.
It was instant chemistry.
Actually, no.
Well, in the
No.
beginning, we were just friends,
Right.
you know, but yeah.
You want to hear the story?
Oh, I want to hear everything.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna tell you the first part. She can tell you the second part. Okay. So the first part, actually, we connected in the festival, and we just shared, you know, contact. Nothing big, because she was just traveling around.
Social media.
I had a lot of things going on in my plate back then also. So you know, life was going normal. Social media was going normal. But back then, I like to go to the Atlas Mountains. I think you heard about them.
Yes.
So I love being there, and there is some villages that are quite deep in the Atlas Mountains, and they're quite isolated. So what I do every year is I put some social media crowd fund. So I collect some funds, some clothes, especially for the winter, because it's quite cold with all the snow. So I collect these things, and then I take them with some friends, and we go up to the mountains, and we give them to the kids up in the mountains. And Bettina, she saw one of the posts. She said, well, I have some clothes that I'm leaving Morocco also. Can I donate? I said, yeah, absolutely, you can. And she said, can I come also with you guys when you go there? And I told her, well, it's quite complicated, because we are going just by one car, and it's a very long journey. She didn't know in the beginning. It's a very long journey.
This is from where in Morocco?
From Marrakesh, actually,
From Marrakesh
up to the
to
Atlas
the
Mountains. And the Atlas Mountains, it's surrounding, and it's 4,000 meters high. So it's, you
It's
know, you're
remote, and it's cold, and it's
Yes.
what, a windy road
Yeah,
around
exactly.
the mountain.
no network, nothing, you know. It's
I didn't know that.
she didn't know in the beginning.
I didn't go to the Atlas Mountain yet. So
I didn't know how
You were
it was.
tricked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So I told her this weekend you can't join us, because there is a lot of people coming already.
It was 2 days before I had to leave Morocco.
Yeah. So I told her she can join another day, and she said, well, I'm leaving this day, so we can go this day, but you have the choice between going on a car or going by a motorbike. I mean, it's a little bit a bigger motorbike. And then she picked a motorbike. Adventurous, you know.
Adventurous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I picked her up. It was 8 in the morning, and we took the road. And it's 160 kilometers, and it needs like 5 hours.
That's what I said. 160.
I told her it's just 100, but you know, because of all the,
Taking
it's taken a lot
quite
of
some
time.
time, yeah.
So in this 5 hours in, 5 hours out, we connected, and we shared a lot of memories. And I told her, well, I have this big dream that I would like to cross Africa with a Defender, with a Land Rover Defender. I was very specific because it's a big dream for me. And she said, well, if one day you do this, I would like to join. This, we had nothing between us.
We just said, like,
Yes,
let
maybe.
me know,
If you're
It was
going-
more or less like a joke. Yeah, if you're going, I join.
I'll come
you.
along, yeah.
And we shook hands,
You
and it
shook
was
hands,
just
you're
a
like,
joke.
okay, we do it.
It was a deal.
It was a deal.
Yeah, it was,
And I mean, after that day, we felt more the connection. She went back to Germany. 1 week 2 weeks later, she came back to Morocco
Yeah.
to see the love of her life. And it was a nice beginning, And yeah, it's so far so good.
What better way to bond than 5 hours in and 5 hours out on a motorbike?
Absolutely.
I hope the roads were good and it wasn't too bumpy.
No, it's not bumpy at all. It's just
Circular.
Yeah, circular.
Because it
Like
goes,
this.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like a corniche.
Exactly. You have to, and it's also because you have to go all the way up, and it's a very long journey because there's a lot of curves, so it takes time. You can't go fast at all. You have to go between 30 and 50 max because there's always a bad curve, so you have to be very careful in that road.
And it was it a cold time of the year that you were making
Yeah.
this journey?
Yeah,
Yes.
it was in December actually.
In daytime, it was still quite fine. In daytime, because of the sun, it's okay. But the moment it's getting dark, it's going
It's
down.
very
and it was
chilling.
very, very cold. Did you get sick after that even?
I had just a little bit of back pain, because it was quite cold, and but it was a fun journey.
Yeah.
I don't regret it because I'm with the woman now. It can go up to minus 20 degrees in some regions because it's really cold, and most of the year there is snow, and yeah, it's a quite cold area, and the people there, because it's isolated and it's their choice. I don't know if you know about the history of Morocco, but the ancestors of Morocco, they are Amazigh, and I'm one of them. I'm an Amazigh. So I'm not Arabs. I'm an Amazigh. So the 60% of the population are Amazigh. Also, they speak another language which is called Amazigh. So these people, they choose back then to live in the mountains because they didn't want to have wars. So they run all the way to the highest of the highest mountains. But after all the development and everything, they still decided to stay there because that's their environment. They live in really rocky mountains with their small rivers and valleys, and they just enjoy living life as simple as it is.
They also have a little bit different culture than the Moroccans itself.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different.
It's a different boundary, different language, all is quite different.
This is a bit like the Kabylie people in Algeria, presumably. and,
Actually, Amazigh is going from Morocco all the way to Egypt,
Ah.
and it's across it's all
Kabylie,
across. Yeah,
oh.
they were the empire was all over there, and the year of Amazigh this year is 2993. So our history is quite older than Jesus, And yeah, it's a long history, and we are proud of it. We have our books, we have our heritage, we have all our language, which
They
I
have their
speak also,
writing
our
also.
writing and everything, our flag, and but we still believe that we are Moroccans. We're proud to be Moroccans
Sure.
because Morocco is this diverse country between the Arabs, the Sahrawi, the Sub-Saharan people, and then the Amazigh.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a beautiful combination, and we love it.
So you come from this extraordinary environment where you're very conscious of both things that are culturally very specific to groups of people, even where they're the majority group, but they're very, very culturally specific, as well as having a broader culture, and the place that already must have been very open to people traveling from all parts of the world. I mean, Marrakesh, heavens, 1960s paradise for,
Yeah.
the Paul Bowleses of this world, all the American artists and beat poets and so
Yeah.
on who live there to this day. But this kind of travel that you were thinking of was not about, as you say, about finding the best hotels you can afford and going to the obvious tourist attractions. Yes, you will take in the tourist attractions, but what were you looking for with this idea of planning to go on the road for 2 years? What made you feel for a start that you could give yourself the luxury? I know you're young, but what made you feel like you give yourself the luxury of 2 years out of your life just to travel?
It's something what is teaching yourself also a lot, and it's also like challenging yourself. And you never know what is coming out of it. You know, like the best example actually is I started my journey backpacking and I didn't know where it will lead me to. I didn't know how long I will travel or what will come out of it. But at the end, I found him, you know, and I have a different life than everyone probably in my family thought I will have. And so you never know where life is going, because many people, they think they want to plan their life. They say like, okay, with 25 I want to have a house. With 20 I want to be married. With 22 I want to have children. And sometimes life, or most of the time, life is not like this. You cannot plan. I was also like this. I had my plans, I had my hopes, but sometimes life is not going like this. So it's sometimes easier to just leave it go and you do where your passion lies. If it's now like traveling, or if it's maybe a passion what you have, like doing a business and something, you just go and don't think what will happen. Because who would have known that there will be Corona? Come on, 2 years of everything is locked down. No one can do nothing. And it's very difficult.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's a luxus. It's really a choice what we made in our life. We worked for this because through the pandemic we were actually separated. So
I was just going to ask, how
Yeah.
did it work for you, travel-loving people in the coronavirus
Yeah.
years?
Oh, well, it's a movie actually.
Yeah.
It's a movie. What happened to us?
So it's like crazy story. So basically after Morocco, I already had a trip to Germany back. And after Germany, I had a flight booked already to Brazil. So we knew that we will be separated for a time because I said,
Not that long.
but not long, because we planned to meet in South America.
Right.
So what happened, I was in Brazil and I was there with friends and traveling. And while I was there, all this Corona thing started to happen. And in this time, I just choose to go back to Germany because there's my family, I have a safe spot. And luckily, my former company, they took me back. So I had a deal with them and I said like, how is it, can I work for 1 year with you guys? Because I already thought it will be a little bit longer with Corona. And they said like, yeah, no problem. And it was very good because it was really locked down in Germany. Morocco closed completely the borders. So we couldn't see each other. And I just would sit at home and do nothing. And that's why it was a very good thing for me that I was able to go back.
So we were separated for 9 months.
Yeah.
We couldn't see each other at all for this 9 months. I mean, we stayed every day in touch, and it was quite a rough time for both of us. But
Yeah.
this 9 months after Morocco opened the borders, she came in because I was not allowed to exit. Moroccans
You
were not
couldn't.
allowed.
You couldn't.
No, they were not allowed. Moroccans, they were not allowed to exit the country for actually almost 2 years. And because of the pandemic, you know, they don't want people to be stuck somewhere else. And that's what happened to us in the other side of the story. So she came, you know, for 3 months, she was coming like kind of every month. And then Morocco closed the border again. So we were separated for 5 months again.
Yeah.
And then Morocco opened, then she moved in. We stayed in Morocco and we traveled a little bit around the country. And then we had an opportunity for a job in South America. We went there as we are flying in the airplane. In this moment, Morocco closed the borders. We just exited the country.
You're not serious.
Yeah, it was like, what should we do?
What's
Escape and they
happening?
close the
Like,
border.
Yeah, and we had our flight back. It was canceled.
Yeah.
Stuck in South America.
We were stuck actually in Mexico.
In Mexico.
And then we had nothing to do because our job was done.
Yeah.
And it's quite pricey for us to
It's
live in
expensive.
Mexico. It's very expensive
Yeah.
because especially it was a touristic destination in Tulum. I don't know if you heard about the area.
Where?
Tulum in Cancun region.
Right.
So it was very expensive. For what we decided to fly actually all across the world again to Turkey. We lived in Turkey for 2 months and few weeks till Morocco opened the borders, and we traveled around whole Turkey because we had time,
Yeah.
and we discovered a lot about the culture, and it's always this traveling keeps happening to us, even though sometimes we don't want it. It just
You
keeps
haven't
happening.
even planned it, but the
No.
travel imposes itself on you.
Exactly.
Travel says, come and
Yeah,
do
just-
me.
just do it. So we came back to Morocco, and we stayed in Morocco for around 9-10 months. And after that, we decided to leave, and we left.
Yeah, actually, while the Corona time happened, we already planned.
We organized most of the stuff.
So we had like even a word paper, and we were like putting points. Okay, you check for the car things, and I check for this, and then we wrote everything down. And how would it be with borders? So we started like to prepare for this, and to make research and to read, and also we saved money, to
Because
have
it's an
something.
expensive journey
It's
also.
expensive, and we lived low key to be prepared,
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask. Another important point. Come back to South America and Turkey because I'd like to ask you a bit
Yeah.
about those. But this trip that you're doing over 2 years, is it entirely self-funded?
Actually, it's 100% self-funded. We worked for almost 2-3 years. We tried our best to save up to live low key. So people, they bought houses, they bought apartment in Morocco. We bought a car, we furnished the car, and
No, because your car is your home.
yeah, exactly. So that's what we did. We got the car. We started, investing inside the car because it's gonna be our home on wheels.
And it's a Land Rover Defender.
It's a Land Rover
It has to be
Defender.
a Land
It
Rover
has to be a Land Rover Defender 110, because it's the middle one, because it is the 3 models, 90, 110, and 130, and the 110 is the one in between that can go in a lot of places, and has quite a lot of space. So, and it's 20 years old. It's 2004. The car.
It's a Moroccan car.
And it's also a Moroccan car, so it was good for us because it was cheaper.
Made in Morocco.
No, it's not made in Morocco, but it's
raised in
raised in Morocco.
Raised in Morocco.
It was not produced, but collected in Morocco. That's how I would say it.
Right.
So it's as people were investing in things, we were investing in this trip and trying our best.
Planning and building up to the whole experience.
And we were just trying our best to work every single project we had.
Yeah.
Because of our job as videographers and filmmakers. Anything that comes in, we just try to work. So there are some weeks and months we didn't have any breaks, just work. And that was a beautiful thing for both of us, because at the end we see that, okay, that's an extra month of traveling. Okay, that's another extra month of traveling. So we always we calculate whatever benefit we have, we calculate how many months it will make us go through. So that was the beautiful thing about this actually 2 years of before traveling.
It's like a modular approach. You could see which elements of the big trip it was going to buy.
Because we have a budget, we estimated the budget per month for the 2 of us, includes everything. And we always calculate, okay, if this project is done, that's another month of traveling. And we keep just thinking this way.
Now, I think it's said there's a traveler's mindset, a traveler's way of being. You develop instincts for certain things, like, for example, your story of being in South America and realizing, living in Mexico is too expensive. What do you do to dodge it? Most people think, oh, you go to Peru or something. No, you go to Turkey. You kind of base yourself and wait until the moment you can move back to where you want to go to. South America sounds absolutely fascinating, and there's a whole other, like Africa, a place of amazingly diverse landscapes, from the Galapagos, Charles Darwin type territory with giant sea turtles that are hundreds of years old, to, again, remote mountains in the north, Peru, the landscapes of the Amazon forest, and the Caribbean, of course, which we think of as almost like Africa, very similar temperament, the same kinds of people, the melting pot that it is as well of cultures. So I know you went to Brazil and Mexico. Did you visit any other countries in South America?
We couldn't. We were planning to go to Colombia, actually.
Yeah.
And we had everything planned.
You really do like Adventure Colombia.
Yeah, that was our meeting point, because I had a
That's
job
where
in
we wanted to,
Mexico
yeah.
and she was in Brazil. We said, let's meet in Colombia. It was in the middle point,
Yeah.
and Bogota, to be exact.
Yeah.
And but it's actually the exact moment.
It's the moment it happened.
We had everything, like the visas, everything is ready.
Yeah.
And then COVID said, okay, you have to stay home. She
Yeah.
was stuck in Brazil. I was stuck in Morocco.
Go back to Germany.
And she had to go back to Germany after a few
But
months.
Mexico, you said, you've made us know, was very expensive. What else did you discover about Mexico? What was the point of going to Mexico? What did you find when you were
Well, actually, it was a work assignment.
Yes.
Because so we had a client who likes our work. So he has a Moroccan restaurant in Mexico. So he would like to make advertisement about the restaurant. So since we are both filmmakers and we make a lot of food photography, we went all the way there, across country, cross continent, to make content for him, for his advertisement. And we loved being there. Actually, it's the only downside for us, to be just clear, it's quite not unsafe. I feel safer here than being in Mexico because there is guns everywhere. There is everywhere drugs. You feel like something is happening that is not correct,
And it's quite, for me, surprisingly, actually, that Mexico is a very big destination for travel. But for Africa, it's always said that it's so dangerous, which for me doesn't make sense because really in Mexico, there was like shootings and just on the beach.
just on the beach.
And some tourists were shot. And like when we were there, we also felt a lot of presence of the army and controlling. And even the people who work there, they said like, yeah, you have to be careful and things. So it was for us the feeling that we feel more free to travel here in Africa than in Mexico.
Extraordinary, because you hear Cancun and you think it's one of the major tourism destinations.
It's
It's
for
one of the major
Americans.
dangerous, which is
What?
also there.
Yeah.
Yep.
The problem is they have a lot of drug lords and they fight between each other.
Because of the tourism. If there is tourists, that means for them land, market. And that's quite the case in Cancun and in Tulum. Because both of them are controlled in ways by the drug dealers. And you can see that actually, literally you can see it. It's not like something hidden. You can literally just see it.
But I think, because we were in this area,
But this
Cancun
region.
and Tulum, but we went also a little bit farther into the sites, and there it's quite different. It's really like you have this regular life, you have the villages, the cities and stuff. And I said I really would like to explore Mexico also more, but going more away from these touristical spots.
Yeah.
Because always cities, they can have problems. You never know, So we prefer to go to
We prefer to go away from the big
Yeah.
major cities because for us that's where the cultures is actually happening, and that's where people actually are being themselves, because the city there is a lot of stress. There is a lot of masks we have to wear when we are in the cities because there is nothing clear. You have to be like what's the name of this animal that changed the color?
Chameleon.
Chameleon. You have to be a chameleon in the city. Either way, you wouldn't make it.
You do have to put on a lot of masks, you say.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Brazil, which from the African point of view, we all think, oh, Salvador do Bahia. But you weren't in Bahia. Which part of Brazil were you in?
Oh, actually, I traveled with a Brazilian friend. So I really got the insight because we stayed with families from him, we stayed from friends, we went to the carnival. But we didn't go in Rio de Janeiro, we went actually to Belo Horizonte.
And Fortaleza.
And there we went to the carnival and it was very cool because there are no tourists.
Just the local.
So just the local.
Fantastic.
And always they came to us and they're like, wow, what are you doing here? And no, that's not right. Or take me a picture. It was very something for them that we come to the gringos. Yeah, that's how they call us. That we come there and we celebrate Carnival with them. And we are always like, yeah, no, it's our friend. He brought us and stuff. And yeah, it was very interesting. And it's very cool because this friend I met actually while I was traveling in Africa. So we traveled a little bit in Africa also together. And then he said like, oh yeah, come to Brazil. And we have another friend from the Philippines. So we will go travel together. And he said when he was in Africa, he saw so many cultural connections between Brazil and Africa. And I mean, from the history, it really makes sense, And you see the outfits when you're in Brazil. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I will just put it, maybe even the dance, the Brazilian dance has impact from the African people. And it's quite interesting to see that the history is actually like something which is in the whole world, And it's the beauty of traveling, that it's all kind of connected.
So then you return to Africa and you've worked very hard, you've planned this for ages. So despite COVID seeming to get in the way all the time, actually you, with your beautiful ability to go with the flow of things happening around you, work along with that, do enough work, plan and save, put together all the elements you need for this package. You start off your journey presumably from Marrakesh, and then what was the plan, at least for the first 6 months as laid out on paper?
So our plan actually was to start in Morocco, our home country, because that's where we lived. So we started off in Marrakesh, and our big plan is actually just travel at least 1 month in Morocco first, because there is some places we haven't been to in our country, and in Morocco, and we would like to experience. But mainly we wanted to travel 1 month in Morocco to do a beta version, to train ourselves, because it's not easy to live in a very small space together. I mean, we work together, we are together 24/7, but living in a very small, tiny space, it can actually get into your nerves, and it's challenging for the relationship. It's challenging for the car. It's challenging for the personal, our personal relationships with ourselves, and that month was the best thing we did actually as a decision, because we were still in home, in a comfortable zone, but we are experiencing new things, and that did teach us a lot to go through. And once we crossed the borders to Mauritania, we felt that we are now actually traveling. But we are more confident, more capable, and we have more flexibility when it comes to a lot of things, because we learned that living in a small space is not as glamorous as it's on social media. You have to do some things that you wouldn't expect. Sometimes you have really extreme headache and you want just to have a quiet spot, but people are coming and talking to you, or there is loudness from something, or there is rain, or plenty of things that can really disturb you. But it was really the beta version for us, Morocco, and from there Mauritania, and going for the first 7 months all the way till Togo, because we knew that there is a rainy season, and we didn't want to cross Nigeria in the rainy season. We wanted to be in the rainy season and the area where the rain is, but with the most good infrastructure, and because Nigeria is a little bit complicated to cross as travelers, especially there is a 200-kilometer off-road piste between Cameroon and Nigeria to cross the borders, and it's quite challenging with the vehicle in the rainy season. So we wanted to take our time and just enjoy every country as possible as we can. And we spent in Senegal over 1 month and a half, in Mauritania almost 1 month, in Guinea 2 months, in Ivory Coast almost 1 month, and now we are 1 month here in Ghana. So we try our best to stay as long as possible in each country, because we know each one of them has so much to offer.
So you went Morocco, Mauritania, Senegal, Gambia,
Senegal
back
again.
into Senegal again,
Yes.
and then Guinea.
Yes.
Then you didn't go through Liberia.
We didn't do Liberia and Sierra Leone. Both of them we did because in Guinea we wanted to see some specific cultural aspects that if we go to Liberia or Sierra Leone, we can't do that. And it's mainly the Guinea Forestier.
Tell us a little bit about, so this is, you explained that Guinea, there's the coastal region, there's a northern region, and then there's Guinea Forestier,
Yes.
the forested
Guinea.
belt, which is what, in the middle of the country?
Yeah, it's actually all the way in the south kind
All
of
in
the
the
country,
south.
in the borders with Ivory Coast and Liberia.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, so a band that stretches across to the two
Exactly.
countries.
It has even the borders with both of them, with Liberia and Ivory Coast. Yeah, Côte d'Ivoire.
It sounds to me, well, looking at some of the pictures that you put up on your Instagram site, where else too, we'll give the link, I hope, to listeners at the end. But that seems to be one of the parts of West Africa in particular that you've enjoyed most. What was the attraction of Guinea Forestier?
It's really what we felt is that the nature there is just like breathtaking. It's like a very, very beautiful, rough country. It has so many like hills, and it's very green, and it's like untouched still. It doesn't have so many like farms, or you have like the street, and then there is a path, and it's going to a village, and then there is the forest surrounding it.
I mean, we have been to the jungles in Mexico, because it's quite similar climate when it comes to the climate. But the Guinea Forestier, I think the earth is more alive than in Mexico that is giving birth in ways to so many different species, plants, and all this. So once you enter, you feel you are actually in the real jungles.
You feel the ground is moving,
Mexico, maybe the only thing that might eat you is mosquitoes.
Right.
But in Guinea, everything wants to eat you alive.
Everything.
Everything, And you're surrounded by really high trees,
Yes.
coffee trees everywhere, also palm oil trees, plenty of trees everywhere. And there's so many birds, animals surrounding the area. But mainly is how people live actually in this surrounding. It's just fascinating because you are actually in the middle of the jungle. So you have to make your way through and you have to survive with the forest because it's either you destroy the forest or it will destroy you.
Yeah.
But the people actually manage to coexist with the forest. I don't know how they did it, but they live in the middle of the forest. They have some small paths that we talked to the people from the villages there and said they're like hundreds of years there.
Yeah.
Very tiny paths.
They don't know even, but ants
They didn't
are
make
like in the past walk.
Didn't make like big roads or anything. They just took a shovel and then they made very small paths and they are very clean, well organized, and you know that this path will take you out of the forest. You know this path will take you to the village. And
Just enough to make their way, but they don't feel the need to impose their presence
Exactly.
on the forest or the landscape.
Exactly. So they're not over killing the forest. They're actually coexisting with the
But
forest.
did you not feel threatened by it, given what you said about, the forest can eat you alive,
Yeah.
and it must have taken a lot of adjustment to all the things that could potentially, funguses, scorpions,
Yeah, snakes.
snakes,
Very dangerous
that you
snakes.
had, yes.
There is even a small thing that actually we had been attacked, both of us by. It's the clamp ants. I don't know if you know them or not. They are quite big ants and
The
they have
things with the
clamps.
jaws.
They bite
and they bite.
Stay
And they're stuck there,
So,
and they don't attack as one; they attack as a million.
but it's still not so bad, So
But you have to watch yourself.
You
when
have to
walk,
watch.
and,
You have to keep an eye on the surrounding. And
You have to be very careful, because I was walking and there's a green mamba just there.
yeah.
And I was with the locals walking inside the forest. I remember this very well because they are very scared from snakes.
It's a big topic.
But for me, it was a little bit different because snakes, as far as he's dangerous, but I'm not that afraid of him. So I saw him. I wanted to grab the snake, but I told him, there's a snake. They run. They left me
As
alone.
far away as
Yeah,
possible.
yeah. So they went really far, and they
Yes.
said, "What are you doing?" So I was like, "Yeah, it's a green mamba. It would be very good for research, or or either just do something with it because it was in the path." But you can see the danger everywhere. But still, this push of adrenaline that you are inside of these things makes you feel more alive.
For me, it's also because we went to Kindia and we worked together with the snake research there. So we went one night into the jungle and we were actually searching for the snakes. And we wanted to catch a green mamba and we wanted to
Catch
catch
cobras.
all of this very poisonous snakes. But it was quite difficult to find them, So
They've gone hiding for the night.
yeah, they
Yeah.
hide. They're very well and also they don't want to be with humans. They run,
try.
So through this experience, I really was like, well, most of the animals, or even like snakes or even lions and stuff, they still keep the distance from humans. It's like, really, if they have a reason, like they have babies, or okay, there are some snakes that are aggressively, so you shouldn't go there and try to pet or something, no. But still, I always tell myself, okay, they are actually more scared of you than you are probably from them, and they hear you already coming from far, so probably they run. But I just keep care that I walk and there is nothing,
But I think one of the biggest thing that made a huge connection for us with the Guinea Forested Guinea is the village there, the people there, and the villages there, and the people they have no arrogance, they have no evil thoughts. That's how I would put it, because people, they would think, well, it's very dangerous there, because you are really with people who they are from villages. They might just see your stuff and steal it. But we never felt this way. We every time leave our stuff outside of the car. Never had anything. People, they were just respectful.
Yeah.
They come every morning to say hi to us. They bring us food. We share with them our food. We go to their home at night when they finish with the farming because they had a system. We play games together. We cook together. We we did all these things together. We worked with them a little bit in the fields. So it was a very nice experience for us to connect with them.
How
And
do you think they perceived you? Because it can't be very often that they get that many visitors.
we are the
even
third
from
white
within?
people. Actually, we are the third white people there.
Yeah.
To be exact, they said they are the third white people ever been here, and for them it's always a pleasure. That's how
They're very happy.
They're very happy to have you, and all of them they want actually to be friend with you.
Yeah.
All of them they want to invite you home. But sometimes you feel a connection with some certain people, and that's where you connect the most. Bettina, she had a connection with a woman. She's from Liberia, married to a man from there. And because the woman, she's from Liberia, she speaks a little bit English.
Speaks English, and
So
I'm
she
not
connects
good at
with
French.
with her more.
So,
But for me, because of
So you
French,
bonded through the language.
yeah.
but for me, because of French, I spoke with multiple people. However, the thing about this village, why we felt most connected, because it does represent Earth in general. How I'm gonna put this for you? It's a small village of less than 100 people with three different religions. They are Muslim, some African religions, and Christian. They have a mosque and they have some burial spots, everything together in one spot. They marry each other, they support each other, and they just live together. And it represents a wonderful coexistence system that actually we're missing all across the globe. And I see that because I went there and I talked to all of them, and they were like, so this house is Muslim and this one is Christian and this one is, they're like, yeah. And you married to a one? He's like, yeah, no problem. I marry a Christian. My sister, she's marrying a Muslim. No problem. And it does represent this idea that I really believe in, that there is no right or wrong. We're all right and we're all wrong. We just have to live and to coexist with each other. That's how I see it. And I think that's why we've both felt most connected to these people, because they didn't see us as whites. They didn't see us as Muslim. They didn't see us as Christian. They saw us as humans, and we saw them likewise. And we just had a beautiful connections with them,
Yeah, because sometimes in some countries we had also this, that because I'm a Christian and Hussein, he's Muslim, and we stay with our religion. And we face this sometimes, that they are like in disbelief. They're like, how is this
How can
possible?
you?
Like,
Yeah.
you're from different religion and you're still believing and you're still married, and what? So they always believe like one of us has to convert, But it's like really that you just have to have the respect and the understanding towards each other. And it's not just like in a relationship, it's also in the community.
Was your journey through Côte d'Ivoire, did it go down to the coast, or did you again just cut through the forested belt?
No, we went all the way down to Abidjan.
Okay.
We went to the big city, the capital also, Yamoussoukro. We wanted to go to San Pedro and its region and drive all the way over the coastline, but the issue was the rainy season. We had some friends that they were there like 1 week before us.
And they told us,
They don't come because the road was they broke their car. They had to it was very, very, very difficult. So we went straight down to Abidjan. We stayed in Abidjan for over 20 days, I think. And we went to the beach side, to the old capital of Côte d'Ivoire,
Grand
Bassam. We visited a lot of things there. We went all the way to the Assine region. And then we went all the way up to the north where the forest is. And that's where we entered Ghana from.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was going
From
to say,
Sunyani.
From Sunyani.
Next to Sunyani, there is a border there. Like, I think,
My word.
oh, okay.
Well, no, I just find it extraordinary for some personal, coincidental reasons, because that's where my father's mother's people are from.
oh,
Okay, from Sunyani.
and
We
obviously-
loved it
because I
there.
was
we like
thinking,
the region. It's
I was
very
going
nice.
to ask, did you enter at a Lubo or any of the conventional entry points in the western region? But no, you decided to
No,
enter
we
the
went to the
Bulla region
smallest border. We like to cross from small borders.
at
Yes.
small crossing points.
Yes, because it's less stress. It's easy to
Sometimes
talk
you
to
have the trucks also, which they have to go through the whole process. So
Yeah.
it's good to go somewhere where it's very like
And the smaller
It's
the
less
border, the less corruption happening also.
I was just going to ask that about your experiences of crossing borders, because even for people for whom West Africa is home, crossing borders, particularly from Francophone zones into Anglophone zones and vice versa, can be very tricky. Customs officials always looking for extras, or even if it's not to line their own pockets, just looking for an excuse to charge you.
Yeah.
How has that been for you crossing borders across West Africa so far? Now in the 7th month of your journey.
Actually, the good thing is that as a traveler, like we do, there is like a community. So we kind of know each other and we are communicating in different groups. And there it's like everyone writes their experiences a little bit down about the borders. So we even use an application where you can put like sightseeing spots, sleeping spots, and borders and all of this, visa, and it's helpful for each other. So we are writing down our own experiences also there, so it helps other people who come afterwards.
Yeah.
So you can see there who makes which experience in which border. And with this, you kind of move,
Decide.
You maneuver and go with the flow again.
Sometimes we add 500 kilometers just not to cross from a specific border because we know that they might take 1 or 2 days from our time because of this.
It makes it difficult.
It makes it more difficult.
So yeah.
So far, crossing, 7 countries, 7 borders, we have faced a little bit of struggles in some borders, but I think since we both have this mentality of not rushing, we take our time, and we know if there is a corruption or someone is trying to get some money from us, we say no because we don't support this at all. And what we do, if he's not letting us go through, we park our car next to his house, we stay there till he's, because we have time, he doesn't.
They realize that you people are really committed.
Exactly.
Another thing that is a great challenge, apart from dealing with officialdom, which we all have in our travels across the world, is the physical challenges you face with the great Land Rover Defender and keeping it in order. It's extraordinary. I've seen pictures of you talking about, again in Guinea, breaking down at one point, having to fix the car. Where have you just acquired these skills as you've gone along, or is there some special school you can go to that trains you to be the ideal traveler, doing mechanics, cooking your own food, how to watch out for bugs and snakes? How did you acquire the skills that you use to deal with physical breakdowns of your home?
When it comes to, because there is multiple skills that you have to learn, you have to be multi-skilled when it comes to travel like this, but it's not something you have before embarking the journey. It's something you learn as you go. And for us, it's just because of the passion. We did so many mistakes. We made so many things. We broke in the car or in our equipments, but that breakdown made us learn that next time should be fixed this way, or this thing should be fixed this way. So we didn't learn anything before going into this trip. We know how to film and take pictures, maybe a little bit how to cook, but we didn't know how actually to drive rough terrains, to drive in the desert, to drive on the beach, or drive on really muddy roads. These things we acquire as we go, and we got stuck multiple times, and we managed.
I wanted to ask you about Ghana specifically, though, because you talked about coming in through Sunyani and how you enjoyed the Buna region. Where have you traveled in Ghana so far over this month?
So actually, we went to the north. So we went to the Wa region because there is the hippos. And we really wanted to see the hippos, and we went there to the sanctuary.
This is the Upper East.
Upper East, the Upper East.
The Winfi called, no?
It's the Upper East. So we started in Sunyani, and then from there we drove all the way to Bole.
Right.
And on the way there is 3 mosques. The Sudanese mosque, I don't know if you know them or not.
I've heard of some of
So
them.
it's a beautiful architecture, and I went inside, I prayed inside with the locals, and they had a beautiful discussion with them also. And it's very interesting because it's something that doesn't belong here, but you see how people actually appreciate it because they still keep it in good shape, and they still use it. And it's just because someone randomly from years ago, I think 200 or 300 years ago, he came.
They didn't know.
They didn't know they had an, because they asked the people there, they have no idea what year actually this one was built. So we went through this, and from there we went all the way to Ga.
Did you go to Damongo and the Larabanga Mosque, or that's not one of the?
They're next to Moda.
I think it's sort of near, not far from Wole National Park.
We went to the Malouve and the Bole Mosque.
Bole and
but not in the Mole National Park.
Right.
So we went to the smaller mosques actually, which I think the other one is quite famous. Yeah?
Larabonga is very famous.
So
yes.
this ones, they are like similar, but they're a little bit smaller, and there are also not so many tourists. So it's for us on the way. So
And it's still the classic architecture,
Yeah.
built hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
exactly.
We went inside. It's beautifully made.
It's very
People-
unique because we see that there is a specific style in the country from mosques, how they are built and from the architecture. So it's like you go and suddenly there is something very different. So you question how did it come here, And they said actually, yeah, we don't know exactly, but a man came and he said we want to build it like this. And I think it's said it's a Sudanese architecture way, but the people there, they said like, yeah, it was just a guy, he came, he said, we built the mosque like this, and that's how it came.
And it's possible in the same ways as people do church planting in other parts of the country.
Yes.
But then you say you went to the Upper East, you went to Wa.
Yeah, we went all the way to the border with Burkina
Wow.
Faso. And actually, we were in Burkina Faso for a moment, and then we came back
With the
because we were
river.
on the
We
river
were on
side.
The river, so.
And we came back. We saw the hippos. We enjoyed being there, and I see that the people they're really doing a good job. They're trying to protect the area because they try to coexist with the hippos, so they're not chasing them away. And the population growed from I think 20 to 50 hippos now, and it's a fascinating thing because you're protecting your region.
Also, it's like the sanctuary people, they told us that it's like they have to educate also the people who live in the village because they have to learn how the hippos are reacting and how the hippos are living in their own environment. Because if they know it, they know how close they can go because the hippos, they're very aggressive. Also, the nature is in the north part still more they're present
Yes.
as
There's
if you
less
go
farms.
more down.
It becomes more urbanized, more commercialized.
Exactly.
Like a lot of farms and stuff, and there it's still the nature is present and stuff. But in general, I have to say that for me, the Ghanaian people, they are very, very friendly. And also what I experience here, because sometimes when we travel in Africa, we also have that when you are white, you get the looks, and sometimes it's not a nice, interested look. It's like they don't like that you are there look. So, and in some countries you have this like looks all the time, and it's like every time you go outside you feel watched and stuff. And in Ghana I really feel like super relaxed, and it's a natural thing, and I feel like equal, And
Is
it's
it
very
worse
nice.
for you if you're a man or a woman, or do you find it's pretty much the same in different ways?
I feel the same as Bettina. Actually, I'm still not considered as African. That's a big thing for me
Big
because
thing for him.
because
yes.
personally I'm African, but people in the whole countries we cross through, they rarely consider me as an African.
I think you're Lebanese, probably.
They think I'm a French, maybe Spanish or
When they
something like
see
that.
me and then they direct.
Because also the people here, they have a wrong image about Africa itself. Some people in the West African countries, they think that Africa is only black skinned people. But Africa has a diverse, ethnicities and cultures and groups and colors, skin color and all these things. So for me, sometimes it's quite, I feel like I don't belong anywhere anymore.
I say like you don't belong to Europe, but you don't belong to
It
Africa.
can be a position of privilege if you don't feel like you're necessarily all the place all the time, but it comes with its own challenges.
Yeah. We went down to Kumasi.
Yeah.
And but we don't go directly. We slept in 3 spots before Kumasi in the forest.
Yeah, we sleep in the forest.
In the forest, because from Wa to Kumasi is I think 500 kilometers or so. So we had to do it in 3 or 4 days. And we slept in the middle of the forest. We love being there because there's thunder just above your head and it's hitting so loud.
Oh,
And
it was so scary actually. It's just like next to you.
really next to you.
Yeah.
And you are really, in the middle of nowhere. Nobody would
In
see
the
you.
elements.
Yeah, in the elements. And from there, we went down to Kumasi. We stayed in Kumasi to fix a few things in the car because they have good Land Rover shops there.
Ghana is our Land
Land
Rover
Rover.
paradise.
You have a lot of Land Rovers, so that's
We
good.
have a lot of Land Rovers,
Yeah.
some of them even colonial legacies.
Yeah.
And then down from Kumasi
to Cape Coast.
to Cape Coast.
Yeah, and in Cape Coast region, we stayed for 3 or 4 days. 4 days.
Yeah. We also went to the Cape Coast Castle. Like that's we also have to see this touristical spots, especially if it's history. And it was for us very interesting to see these things. Also because Morocco has the slavery reports, and there is the city Essaouira, so it's also built from the Portuguese. So it had like similarities, you know.
Documenting your journey is very important. You talked about the films you're making, the pictures you're taking, some of which people can see on your sites, because at the end of what may be 2 years, who knows how it's going to round itself up, but you're aiming to make a documentary about Africa. What's going to be the frame of this documentary? Is it just going to be life on the road? Is it going to be the story of Bettina and Houssain?
So basically because it is like this, that especially in Africa, you have so much culture, you know, which is like in Europe, sometimes it's fading away, because with the technology, sometimes the world is starting to become very similar. So the traditions and stuff, sometimes they can kind of get lost. And I feel like sometimes in Europe, we are missing out these cultures. And yeah, I'm a little bit sad about it. But when you come to Africa, there is really this big traditions with colors and songs, and it's very deep still, it's there. And I'm a little bit worried that like after some time, when the development comes more and more, and the world rise, which is very good also for Africa, but I'm worried that the tradition, maybe it's like fading a little bit away. And the tribes, they're also not that existing anymore. So we really want to capture these moments. We want to keep these moments alive with our pictures, what we take, especially when you see now Accra as example. We take today the picture, next year it will be completely different. Yeah. The city is growing like so fast, so things will change very quickly in Africa. Everything is changing now because it's growing. So we want to keep these memories, and we want to keep the stories, and we want to talk about it, and that's why we want to release it. We hope also to make a book from it later, and so yeah, we just want to keep all of
this
these
is the picture
things.
side. So we'd like to make a book about that, you know, a photography book that represents all the stories from Africa, because we know it's gonna fade away after some time. So it's a beautiful thing. Maybe in 50 years from now, one of your grandchildren can see it, and you know how it was, and that's a beautiful part of it. But for the documentary, the main motivation is actually something we have been doing before, which is discovering the connections and between cultures. And for us, it's to show really the beauty of differences in this matter, that Africa is not one country, because people, they imagine Africa always as one. And since she traveled and they lived in Africa, and they know how everything goes here, we would like to capture, what we are doing actually is to capture that Africa is very different than what you imagine. Each country has its specific culture, heritage, traditions. It's not only savannas and safaris. It's not only tribals. It's not only poverty and war. People are actually trying to make it here, not somewhere else. And we have this big mission to tell everyone, no, Europe is not a good continent. Here is better, you know. Europe is
not paradise.
It's not the paradise of what you imagine, because everyone is asking, oh, take me with you, bring me to Europe, all these things. But you have to make it here, because here it's your continent, it's your home, and you would feel more, you will appreciate more your success if you make it at your own country. So the documentary will talk actually about our journey through the continent, but we shed light mainly on the stories and the people that we meet across the roads, and highlight offer, and we know it's going to disappear after some time.
Any big challenges that you're anticipating in the next few months? I know you've spoken about the physical challenge of Nigeria and avoiding it during the rainy season.
Well, mainly it's now Nigeria, where we think, first of all, it will be a challenge with the visa, because it's not that easy to get it. So it's a quite big process where we have to go through, and at the end we have to cross the fingers that we get it. So this is a challenge, because we don't know yet if they say yes then or no. And like if they say yes, it's okay, we can go through. But if they say no, we also have to see how will we travel then, take a ferry or whatsoever. And I think also in Nigeria itself, then the challenge we will have with the pist, and you never know with the rain if there is still some rain, and yeah, it depends. Like on the country, you also have to be a little bit lucky who you encounter. But yeah, that's mainly what I would think.
Yeah,
What
the
is
biggest
the biggest
challenge,
challenge for us?
It's gonna be just the visa actually for Nigeria, not
Yeah.
crossing the country, but getting the visa.
Well, our great thanks to you, Bettina and Houssain, for that very generous insight into your 7 months so far on the road, including Ghana, the incredible idea of crossing the border into Ghana near Sunyani, which I still can't.
Thank you so much also. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was really a pleasure.
So thank you for joining us on Sunday night, where our guests this evening have been Bettina and Houssain of Where Else To, where we've been talking on the beach at the La Boma Beach Resort here in Accra, and hearing about their wonderful tale of adventure on the road, crossing the African continent, and reminding ourselves of this great place we call home. Our great thanks to Danaputi of the La Boma Beach Resort for allowing us to film here. And I hope you've enjoyed this tale of adventure and it's inspired you maybe to get out and see a little bit even of your own region and neighborhood. Thank you very much for joining us on Sunday night. Join us again next week at the same time for more tales of this wonderful continent we call Africa.
Thank you for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe.